And then you see the behind the scenes footage and it sinks in and I'm like, holy crap, I'm paying for this. And it just set in with how wildly unethical that is. Probably the biggest moral abomination in our planet going on right now.
Hey everyone, this is Ryan from Aethix Fitness, and this is season 3 of the Aethix Approach podcast, the podcast where we highlight incredible vegan athletes, nutritionists, and other influential and inspiring vegans in the community and find out what they do to absolutely kill it on a plant-based diet. If you haven't already, please give us a follow anywhere you're listening to this, and feel free to check out the other content I'm producing on aethixfitness.com, including the Aethix coaching services, merch, articles, free training programs, and YouTube videos. Also, feel free to check out my personal fitness Instagram at TofuStrong for more podcast updates and additional content. Creating content like this is a huge passion of mine, and I greatly appreciate any support along those lines. All of my links will be in the description, and thank you so incredibly much for all of the continued love and support. In this episode of the Aethix Approach, I'm excited to welcome a guest who is a prime example of bridging the gap between strength and aesthetics on a plant-based diet, Charlie Ziegler. We'll dive into Charlie's impressive athletic background and his journey into powerlifting and why he ultimately stepped away from the sport to pursue hypertrophy-focused training and whether he'd ever consider stepping onto a bodybuilding stage in the future. But it doesn't stop there. Charlie shares his insights into training with his high-intensity approach, our thoughts on science-based lifting, trends in fitness culture, and different styles of training. Of course, we'll explore Charlie's vegan journey as well, why he made the switch, his approach to eating to optimize body composition, what it's like following a plant-based diet in his home state of Wisconsin, and his practical advice for anyone looking to optimize their nutrition, macros, and protein sources. Whether you're curious about training philosophies like high-intensity, low-volume approaches, or wondering about topics like natural limits, TRT, and the main gaining method versus bulking and cutting, Charlie brings a no-nonsense, educated, and experienced approach to hypertrophy and strength-based training. And as always, we'll cap it off with Charlie's goals for the future, plus where you can connect with him for more inspiration and expertise. This episode is packed with tips, strategies, and real talk for anyone looking to live healthier and lift smarter. Without further ado, let's jump into it with Charlie Ziegler. All right, what's up, guys? This is Ryan with the Aethix Approach podcast, and I'm here with Charlie Ziegler today.
That's correct.
Charlie, thanks so much for coming on today, man. Charlie's a vegan lifter, super fucking strong, background in powerlifting. Seems like you've been doing a lot more like bodybuilding and stuff lately, right? But let me kick it back to you, Charlie, if you want to do a quick little intro for yourself.
100%. Yeah, my name's Charlie, Charlie Ziegler. I go by Chuck the Vegan Lifter on Instagram, which is where I'm mainly active. I've been lifting for probably 8-9 years officially now. The first few years, probably not very well. I've been vegan only going on a couple years for being vegan, but I got my background starting more so in hypertrophy-based training, but not doing it super well, kind of making some newbie gains. Got involved into powerlifting from then and had a decent amount of competitions, and then transitioned away from powerlifting kind of back to more so hypertrophy-based training. From there, I have a sports background to some degree from before lifting, but going on 8 to 9 years of lifting now. And that's I mainly just lift because I like training hard. That's what it's all about for me. So day job, I'm a finance manager at a Kia dealership, which is not nearly as exciting. But lifting wise, mainly hypertrophy based training now. And I've been lifting for almost a decade, which is crazy enough to say.
Damn. That's awesome, man. So let's start from the beginning here, dude. You mentioned you had a background in like sports and such, right?
Yep.
So what was your background in sports? Like what got you into whatever you were playing back then, and what were you playing, and did it lead you to lifting?
Yeah, my parents, I mean, if we go way back, my parents got me involved in almost everything, when I was young. We're talking like elementary school and whatnot. And then middle school, I got actually more so involved in the more so snowboarding, skateboarding side. I was like a snowboarder, skater kid. And then from there, actually, quite the 180 from there, I got involved in golf heavily in high school. So I golfed competitively throughout all of high school. Freshman year, I got serious. I didn't think I was that good. I showed up to, I went to smaller high school overall. I showed up and then just went to the tryouts, and I got the best score out of everybody in the team because it was a smaller score. I'm like, I shot a 44 or something. It wasn't very good. And the team wasn't very good at the time either, on 9 holes. And then I was like, I should try at this. So next two, three probably the next year, I went really aggressively hard at getting better at golf and excelled quite a bit throughout high school in golfing. And then all the way up until early college, actually started college with a business degree and then
Hmm.
also a hybrid in between professional golf management at the time and then kind of dropped the golf off later as I got into lifting. But I didn't get into lifting until senior year of high school. So
Hmm.
that's when I started the back half of the senior year of high school. I started lifting, and that was largely intact due to my brother. He started lifting 10 years old or something like that. But my
Oh
main,
wow.
yeah, to answer your question, my main background is definitely golf related and competitive golf prior to lifting.
Wow. Okay, that's an interesting one. I feel like I never really hear
Yeah.
anybody playing golf, especially in high school. It's usually like an older
Yeah, it
guy kind of
is.
thing.
It's dying down, man. And that's kind of why I dropped part of it for the education part. They talked about how the game's dying and whatnot, but it takes a lot of
Hmm.
time. It's not a cheap hobby by any means, but here in the Wisconsin area, as cold as it is,
Hmm.
year-round golfing's actually pretty big, and there's a lot of really nice courses. So I think it's easier to get involved in a golfing type thing here than maybe, I don't know, than New York City or the New York
Yeah.
area.
Yeah.
Um,
I grew up in Pennsylvania, but even then, like I don't know. Like I guess there's like golf courses and stuff, but you'd really just mostly see like a lot of older guys. But I don't
yeah,
know, maybe
yeah.
just because I wasn't really too familiar with the whole scene. I grew up skateboarding also.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just kept getting hurt too much skateboarding, and I was like taller and a little bit heavier. So I was honestly, now I'm not, but it's funny because I was a fat kid. So I tell other people that, and nobody really believes me. But all the way up until all throughout middle school, really, I was a fat kid, or at least not like
Wow.
morbidly obese, but I was chunky for
Hmm.
sure.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
falls when you're skateboarding aren't as fun when you're heavier.
Yeah, for sure, dude. I broke my ankle and stuff skateboarding, and like,
Ooh,
yeah, dude, like skateboarding hurts, man. Like, I feel like nothing really hits too much harder than like, solid concrete. So like, I don't know if you're ever skating like stairs and stuff, and I mean that shit hurts, dude.
it's not forgiving at all.
Yeah,
My like all of my respect goes towards anything X Games related, gymnastics, whatever they're doing. Anybody thinks they're hard because they're like trained, they're whatever alpha, they're whatever,
yeah,
because they
yeah,
lift weights or train hard. I'm like, compared to the guys that are doing the crazy stuff on skateboards, snowboards, skis, and whatnot, that is to me that's next level. And flying 100 feet throughout the air, going upside down 4 times is insane. But
yeah, yeah. I
yeah,
completely agree. Whenever I see like those dudes online who are just like, you gotta want it, and it's just like, dude, like, come on, you're just
I
lifting
hate that.
weights.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. We're not
it's
about
really
that.
it's like one of the safest like quote unquote sports, like I don't know, I guess lifting weights, I don't really know if it's like a sport in of itself, but if you get into like,
Yeah.
yeah, like you know what I mean, like the injury rates are really low compared to like you said, like anything Olympic related, skateboarding, uh gymnastics, like that shit's, you can get really
Life or
fucked
death
up.
every day. Yep.
Yeah. So like you go into the gym at 5 a.m. and lifting, kind of heavy. It's not like, it's cool. It's a cool like, thing to keep you in shape and keep you disciplined, but it's like not that
Yeah, let's
hardcore.
let's yeah, let's not pretend it's super hardcore, like go into war or anything like that.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a huge thing. I know. But you were actually somebody who like, I mean, you were really strong, dude. Like you still are really strong, but like you were competing at like a high level in powerlifting. So like if anybody can like kind of call people out for that shit, it's you.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I only did like 6 powerlifting meets throughout that time. But I started competing if we want to get into powerlifting a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, I started powerlifting around 100 and 195 pounds when I was, and prior to lifting, I started lifting actually about 160 pounds
Hmm.
after being fat. So I lost a lot of weight, got to
Hmm.
160, started lifting, mainly gained muscle till about 190 pounds throughout the first 3 to 4 years of lifting. At that point, got into powerlifting. So my first couple of meets were at 198. And then I learned about the USAPL. I'm like, hey, I don't do drugs. I should compete in drug-free federations. So I had my first couple of meets there, but I didn't really even know what powerlifting was until I walked into my local YMCA and there was this guy, he had knee wraps on, and you're like, this guy is huge. And then he has this, not a good bar. They didn't have Ohio Power Bars or Alico bars or
Mm-hmm.
anything good. It was some whippy, crappy commercial gym bar. He's walking out, the whole
Mm-hmm.
thing shaking. I'm like, and he's got knee wraps on. I think he was squatting about 600-700 pounds at the time. And I was like, that is the craziest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. I want to
Yeah.
do that. And, I transitioned to powerlifting and conveniently started building a lot more muscle compared to whatever I was doing prior to that point.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I started at 198, went up all the way to 105 kilos throughout
Mm-hmm.
the 3 to 4 years that I was competing. My first ever meet after about a year of powerlifting, I want to say that my numbers were about four. I think this is my second meet because this is the one I remember, but it was about 460 squat. I was about 285 bench, and I
Mm-hmm.
was 585 deadlift, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that was after I pretty much started pulling sumo right away. So I pulled sumo, for those that don't
Uh-huh.
know, when I did compete in powerlifting.
Uh-huh.
And then as I gained weight, I was like, all right, I'd be the 105 kilos, but really I walked around about lower 240s and water cut about 12, 13 pounds or so.
Wow.
And then my best gym numbers that I know I remember was 745 deadlift, 410 bench, and 605 squat. But I
Damn.
think at that time, if I did put more in the bar squatting wise, I could have squatted more than that. It just didn't make sense training wise at the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Um,
those are huge numbers, dude. That's
yeah,
crazy.
all raw, by the way. I didn't do single ply or wraps or anything. I just competed raw with sleeves and USAPL. So
Uh-huh.
stiff bar for everything. All whatever it was, Alico bar or Rogue Ohio Power bar or whatever it was at the
Yeah.
time.
And you competed in 242, was it? Or did you compete in 220?
Both. Well, USAPL, at least at the time, I don't even know what they are to be now. Right now, to
Uh-huh.
be honest, with their weight classes, but at the time, they were 93 kilos, 205 pounds, or 105 pounds and 231 pounds. 140,
Oh, okay.
120, sorry, 105 kilos, 231 pounds. Yeah. So
Okay.
I kind of started in that first class and worked my way up to the larger class, and I have really lanky arms, so that allowed me to get my bench up a little bit because that always suffered, but definitely suffered when I was lighter.
Mm-hmm.
But my squat and deadlift hung on just fine
Yeah.
throughout
And
that
how
time.
how tall are you for reference?
I'm 6 foot.
You're 6 feet tall. Okay. That's
Yep.
that's the same height as me. And like, I mean, 242, I can't imagine. I would be so fat at 242, dude. Like that put that in perspective. That's like a ton of fucking muscle, dude.
Yeah.
That's
Right now I'm
crazy.
217. So if anybody sees my body composition now, I'm 217. So
Wow.
242 is ugly at the time. I have more muscle now compared to then. And maybe we'll get into it now, but as a whole, like by and large, I'm stronger now than when I was in powerlifting. I might not be quite as good at, sumo deadlifting,
Yeah.
barbell benching, or barbell squat, but like, muscle per muscle on almost every other movement, I'm dramatically stronger now.
Wow. And
Um,
I mean, you're lean, dude. You're 217, 6 feet tall and lean. Like
yeah.
that's rare. And I mean, dude, like I'm 6 feet tall, like 190, and occasionally people to me, which I don't even know why, are like, "Yeah, you're a big dude." I'm like, "Nah, dude, like you're a fucking big dude. Like that's crazy." And you're shredded, dude. That's insane.
Yeah. Thank you, man. Yeah, after powerlifting, and the reason why, if anybody's kind of wondering why I stopped powerlifting, is I pulled sumo, like I said before, but also hook grip.
Hmm.
So all my competition, for anybody that doesn't know, your thumb is under the bar, you grab over your thumb, and your thumb kind of locks the bar in place. And I had some tendonitis related issues on my right inner like thumb area, kind of between my wrist and my thumb. So I just couldn't pull hook grip anymore. And then I
Uh-huh.
transitioned to mixed grip, and then it still came back. Um, and I couldn't really hang onto a barbell. So at that point,
Hmm.
I just looked in the
Yeah.
mirror. I was like, "You used to bodybuild, and you're kind of fluffy right now. So we should maybe transition away from that, or maybe we'll compete at a lighter weight class." That was originally my plan. I was like, maybe I'll
Hmm.
drop some body fat for now and maybe compete at 220 or 205 or whatever it ends up being,
Hmm.
after losing some body fat. And then I just slowly, because I couldn't compete in powerlifting, transitioned from doing more and more hypertrophy work.
Hmm.
And my coach is David Wilson. If anybody knows David Wilson, he's one of the best powerlifters in the entire country. for sure.
Hmm.
And he won 2018 Raw Nationals as well. Um,
Wow.
so he's coached me throughout that entire time, but he would know, right? If we're talking about RPR or um, uh, RIR training or anything like that, I'm always overshooting. I'm always trying to train hard. So hypertrophy training kind of allowed me that outlet to train the way that I
Yeah.
wanted to. And I've fallen in love with it since, and I haven't wanted to necessarily turn back. So I just haven't, but
Hmm.
who knows? Never say never to powerlifting
Hmm.
again someday. I'm sure I could still put up some very solid numbers despite literally never doing sumo deadlifts, barbell squats, or barbell bench press anymore.
Yeah, and like you said that you're stronger than you were at this point, right? I mean, that's crazy, and you're
Yeah.
leaner. So
Yeah.
you could probably just walk on a powerlifting stage after getting back into like sumo deadlifts and like low bar squats for like what, like 1 or 2 months, and probably just win
Yeah.
like a
If
local.
I
You could
did,
easily win
yeah.
a local meet at the very least. I
Yeah.
mean 100%, and then I mean you could probably just get. Did you get a pro card, or are you no? How's it work for powerlifting? You go to
They do
worlds
have pro
or like
cards now.
nationals?
They do have
They
pro
do.
cards now. I don't follow it quite as closely as I used to, because now there's
Uh
Powerlifting
huh.
America versus the USAPL, and they split. And
Mm.
there's kind of that feud where half of the lifters that were all in one organization split to Powerlifting America, and the others kind of went to USAPL. I don't know the rules exactly in each anymore. I know they're
Hmm.
very similar, but one of them you can get your pro card if you do certain you meet certain qualifications or whatnot. I didn't. I wasn't that good. I didn't meet that. I did have a state record deadlift, so
Hmm.
I did get that. It was 325 kilos or 717 at 105 kilos, and then the 745 or whatever it was that I pulled, that was in the gym. So that
Uh
was a
huh.
gym lift later on. Um, but no, I didn't get a pro card to answer your question, but I did have
Hmm.
a state record deadlift, and at the time I
Yeah,
was pretty stoked
that's
about that.
that's awesome. I mean, that's huge. Now that you kind of explained a little bit about why you got into like bodybuilding and like why you're kind of doing that more now. Do you have any aspirations with like bodybuilding stuff? Would you ever want to like step on a stage or anything? Or are you kind of just doing it because you love lifting?
I love lifting. I love training hard, and I've definitely contemplated, stepping on a stage. But that's next level. People are like, "Oh, you're
Yeah.
lean now." I got to lose probably 25-ish pounds at least,
Hmm.
probably more. So I'm talking to a powerlifting coach like, dude, you got to lose more than that for sure. And those
Hmm.
25 pounds that I would have to lose, those are pretty brutal pounds to lose.
Right.
It's not as much of a freebie weight when you're just overweight or obese going down to uh I don't know, 15% body fat or something like that. That's more maintainable
Yeah.
for most people. So I know it's brutal and that's what prep is, but with working 55 hours a week and having other life responsibilities, I don't know if the cost benefit analysis is there that I really want to step on a stage that bad to sacrifice whatever it is,
Hmm.
career related stuff or just functioning everyday life. That could be an
Yeah.
excuse because I am tempted. I am tempted. My brother stepped on a stage quite a few times at NPC Nationals actually, and
Hmm.
he beat a lot of enhanced guys as a natural athlete. So
Hmm.
um, we'll
That's
see. Never say
amazing.
never. My guess would be that I would step on a bodybuilding stage before a powerlifting platform again. But
Wow. Okay.
we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got to
Yeah.
do it for veganism too.
That's the thing. Yeah, it is a huge flex for like a vegan athlete to get up
Yeah,
there and just be like, beat everybody and be like, yeah, I'm vegan, guys.
yeah, yeah. But I'd try to do maybe a WNBF pro show or a
Uh-huh.
show, and then get my pro card there,
Yeah.
and go that route, the natural route. I wouldn't compete NPC or anything like that.
Hmm.
But it would be for that. It'd be entirely. I love bodybuilding, but it'd mainly be like, hey, I did this and I'm vegan. So you guys
Yeah.
have no excuse not to be vegan if your muscle building is any type of concern or anything like that. Because it took me way too long to go vegan, and I just didn't have any of the outlets or resources or anybody that I knew in the area. I think in New York
Yeah.
City, it's quite a bit different, but in the Midwest, when in a pretty rural area, there's not a whole lot
Hmm.
of vegans, and you just don't know about
Yeah.
that life. So I might get a pro card, but it would be for the animals. It would be to show to that vegans to do whatever you can on a harnessed or omnivore diet.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome, man. I mean, since we kind of already touched on it a little bit, I'd love to hear a little bit about your story about going vegan. Like what inspired you in the first place?
Yeah, that's a good question. So anybody that also, if they're following me now or ends up following me on Instagram, they'll know that I listen to metal or a good amount of heavy music, and that's always in the background of all of my lifting videos or I'm posting or whatnot. So I was just listening to a podcast from a band actually.
Hmm.
And then you might know them, maybe not. I don't know if you listen to heavier music. To the Grave, that's the band name, and they're on a podcast. And I knew their lyrics were more so about veganism in the past and whatnot, but it never sunk in, you know. I'm like, oh, that's
Hmm.
cool. And they're going up on about how you could tell just in their voice how ruthlessly passionate they were about this subject. Not like
Hmm.
somebody who's passive, like, oh yeah, I eat plants or I'm vegan or whatnot, which is fine, right? If you're vegan and you're not as vocal about it, just doing the right thing and not eating animals is awesome. Um, but I just if they forced me to kind of more so look into it, and they kept on
Hmm.
referencing this documentary, which was obviously you know about it, I'm sure, Dominion.
Hmm.
So instead of just going like, oh yeah, it probably is the right thing to do, I should probably be vegan, I watched the documentary, and then you see the behind the scenes footage and then it sinks in, and I'm like, holy crap, I'm paying for this. I'm
Yeah.
paying to eat all of this stuff, and it just set in with how wildly unethical that is and how much of probably the biggest moral abomination in our planet going on right now. And
Hmm.
pretty much immediately, I would say either I went vegan, but I had like some whatever animal products or dairy or egg based things in the house. I think I just ate the rest of those and just didn't buy any
Hmm.
more vegan stuff after that. But
Hmm.
that was I'm going on a couple years being vegan. I don't have a date or really remember exactly when I went vegan, but it has